Welcome back. Haven't seen you guys in a few days. It hasn't been a slow week, but it hasn't felt as fast paced as it usually does for Nebraska. And because of that, I haven't been able to churn out as much content as I wanted to. I still have some ideas, but I've been waiting on some coaching spots to get filled. I've been waiting to hear some more portal entries or guys who are taking visits from the portal. And unfortunately, it's just developing a little bit slower than usual. So there's still a lot to talk about today because there's a lot going on in the college football world. And I love college football and have been paying attention to every single thing happening. So I know you guys are too, because the DMs have been going crazy with all the new things popping up on our Twitter feeds and then our news feeds. So yeah, thank you guys for being here. Today's a good show. We're going to talk about, before I even get into anything, I just want to give you a preview of our show. We're going to talk about Ryan Walters at Purdue. We're going to talk about some of the transfer portal entries, some of the Big Ten teams and who they're pursuing. We're going to talk about some comments that were made by Cade McNamara at Iowa, which I thought were pretty funny. I wanted to give you a take on that. We're going to talk about Deion Sanders because that's a very hot topic. That's a coach that Nebraska is probably going to have to play for the next 2 years now. For sure next year and then probably the year after that as long as the schedule doesn't get shifted. We'll also talk about Malachi Coleman because that's been a hot topic. And yeah, we'll just go from there. Today's going to be pretty free-flowing. I'll engage with chat quite a bit. But just going to give you my takes. And yeah, I'm going to start off with saying Mike Leach, because we're talking about Mike Leach because he's been a really popular topic as of the last 3 days for really terrible, sad reasons. We don't need to talk about all of his accomplishments because people have been doing that on ESPN all day, and you guys have seen all of it, which I think is super cool. I wanted to give you my feelings on it. I've been a Mike Leach fan for a long time. He's one of those guys you can send his clips from his post-game interviews to your dad, right? And say, hey, look at this funny comment he made. And I've been doing that for, years now. I remember the first time I ever figured out who Mike Leach was, I was probably, I don't know how old I would have been, 17. And I was watching, I think, the Texas Tech versus Texas game after Michael Crabtree had that touchdown. So I'd have been even younger than 17 at that point, probably like 14. Regardless, that was my first introduction, and now he's been obviously a staple coach in all of our lives for a really long time after that. And then he was at Washington State, had some really exciting teams. And yeah, it was just really sad to hear over these past couple days that things were going downhill for him. One thing I thought was really interesting to see was this coaching tree he has. So Dave Aranda was a GA under him. Neil Brown was on one of his staffs, I think Texas Tech. Sonny Cumbie was his quarterback back in 2004 or something like that. I'm sure Sonny Cumbie played against Nebraska. Sonny Dykes was part of his staff as an OC, I think. Josh Heupel was a player at OU for him. Dana Holgerson was on his staff. Cliff Kingsbury played for him. And there's a funny story I saw today that I'm sure you guys saw about Cliff wanting to play quarterback and him telling him he'd be better as a coach. Lincoln Riley. Sorry, Cliff was the quarterback. Lincoln didn't get to play quarterback. He was the one better fit to be a coach. And then Ken Wilson was one of his coaches. So pretty impressive. And he's a guy who obviously is getting a lot of respect today, and it's well deserved. He's one of the best and biggest name coaches in college football in a really long time, even though he didn't have the winning record, which people have been talking about, because he didn't coach at some of the elite schools, and he had a very specific type of offense. So anyway, rest in peace, Mike Leach. That's a really sad one. Then today I also saw that Nebraska marked that their spring game is on April 22nd. So that is, 5 months from today? So 5 months from today, we'll get our first taste of Matt Rule's team, and it'll probably be something like what we've seen with Frost's team in the past, and that's a very vanilla spring game. You get to see some of the players, but you're not going to know what the team's really going to come out with formation-wise. We're not going to know every front they're going to run. So it's just something to look forward to and give us some idea of what these guys look like in pads, basically. See how fast they can run. That's really all it is. But it's still something to look forward to. So April 22nd, I will be definitely tuned in there. I want to talk about Malachi Coleman first, and then I'm going to get to chat. I know there's a lot of chat, and we're going to talk because today's a chat-driven show, and I like to get your guys' takes and opinions. But starting off with Malachi Coleman, he announced today on Twitter that he's going to change his visit from Michigan to Colorado this weekend. And I've been a big Malachi Coleman fan. Personality-wise, he seems like a good guy, but mostly because of his abilities, right? He's just the craziest, most raw talent that we've seen come out of Nebraska in a really long time. I'm not sure if there are many guys who are comparable to his talent. He's freakishly athletic. Anyway, 6'5". What a beast. So I got a lot of DMs about Malachi, and these have been coming in for the past couple weeks. I want to know chat's take, though. What are your guys' thoughts here? This is one DM I got, but it's representative of like 10 different people's comments, or maybe more, on the Malachi situation. This is from a random person, not going to say who it was. To be honest, I don't want Malachi Coleman anymore. That right when I saw that, I was like, wait, what? This is kind of alarming for me, right? Because I'm coming off of the idea that Malachi's this good kid, good grades, family's from Nebraska, wants to be at Nebraska from my understanding. So that first initial comment has thrown me off over these last, couple weeks when people have been telling me these things. He didn't want to play for Nebraska unless it was for Mickey. Now Dion piqued his interest that easily. Heard the rumors about him being selfish and letting the fame affect his relationship with his coaches and his teammates at Lincoln East. I feel like he'll just flock to wherever the hype is. I do not want him anymore. So I don't know much about any of that. And chat, I'm sure you'll have your own opinions. People in my DMs have said all kinds of things about him being a lazy player and all this other stuff, which I know nothing about any of it. But I want to get your guys' thoughts. Like, are you guys fans of Malachi? Still want him as your number one choice to come to Lincoln? Because from the outside looking in, I want him at Nebraska, and it would pain me to see him at Colorado. It would pain me to see him at Michigan. Like, what are we talking about? This guy's a stud athlete, and we got to keep the in-state guys home. Marwan said, you got to remember Malachi was just in for an official visit, and Colorado offered him late, like a couple days ago. Jose says, tell whoever that was to shut up. That's dumb. Get the talent. Get the talent. I'm a fan. I want him. Okay, so generally, chat is on the same page with what I think, which is bring him. I don't know why we would say not to bring him. But I have seen a lot of those comments, and that's why I was confused. And it wasn't just comments from pessimistic people. Basically, everyone in chat's on the same page. Malachi's a must-get. So yeah, that makes sense. Malachi's a receiver. They're notorious divas. It's all about coaching. Fair enough. What's funny about when you talk about divas, there was a comment yesterday on Twitter. Well, a tweet that went out. And I don't know what it said. It was something from Alante Brown. And it was talking about something in his personal life because everyone twisted it and thought it was him leaving Nebraska. I obviously didn't comment on it or say anything about it because I assumed it wasn't about Nebraska. I just thought, whatever this guy's tweeting. Everyone made it a whole thing, and then Alante came out and said, you guys are tripping, not everything's about football. But to be fair, Alante, when your entire following is based off of your football career and your entire brand is built off football, if you make a comment that sounds like it could be about football, you can't blame people for jumping to conclusions. I mean, let's see what Alante said. You guys can tell me if you think he was fishing for a comment. And it's a joke at this point. It's just funny. But here it was. It was very simple. He just put peace signs. And I mean, if I'm a Nebraska fan, I didn't jump to the conclusion because I didn't even think that way, whatever. But if I'm a Nebraska fan and I'm on the edge of my seat because I know that players are, on their way out, I might be looking for a reason to jump down your throat and be like, yo, where the hell are you going? So I get it, but pretty funny. Anyway, let's see here. Craig says, why can't people just respect players' decisions to enter the portal or transfer for their future? It's their careers. NCAA isn't about loyalty. So I think most people can respect that. I think most people do respect it. I think when you're such a diehard fan and you love your team so much, it just hurts to see your favorite players leave, right? Because you build this, it's like pro sports, right? If you had Tom Brady, well, you did have Tom Brady leave the Patriots. That wasn't something that they wanted necessarily, right? You don't want to see your guy go and play for another team and then lose to that team. That doesn't feel good, right? That's why, and I totally understand it from a fan perspective. It hurts a little bit. Like Ernest Hausman, that hurts a little bit. And him going to Iowa is going to hurt a lot more. That's just going to be like, okay, well, spit on me at the same time while you're at it. Anyway. Let's see. Jackson, thank you for the $20 super chat. Malachi got mad in the locker room because he wanted this QB to start. The sophomore got to start over him. Yeah, I don't know anything about that, but hey, it's, it's football. Everybody's got their opinions, right? And if you're a star player, you're going to think your opinion matters. So I totally respect it and get it. I don't think that's going to change my view on him as a player coming to Nebraska, though, at all. Talking about a 17-year-old kid and his drama with his football team, that's pretty normal, right? My final stance is get Malachi no matter what. King Neptune says, Pop Watson flipped to Virginia Tech. Any thoughts? Very simple. Pop Watson, I don't think had a committable offer at Nebraska anymore. I mean, maybe he could have if he told Rule, my dream's to be at Nebraska. I'm all in here. Like, I want to come. Maybe that would have happened. But my understanding is the way these things work in the coaching search, if the coach doesn't hit you up, then you're not wanted. And it might not mean you're not welcome, but you're probably not, right? That's just the vibe they're trying to give off. So Matt Rule did not call him. Matt Rule did not visit him. That's my understanding. And because of that, he had to go and find other opportunities. And I'm sure Virginia Tech's been in on him since Scott Frost and Mark Whipple were already going to be gone. So that was probably a known. And Pop just didn't take his stuff off Instagram or Twitter or wherever he had Nebraska QB listed up until this point. That's my thought. So who knows? Cash says, when do you think Malachi will decide? I think Malachi is going to decide, man, if not this month, then next month. I thought he was deciding a bit before he signed in February. Don't quote me. I forget. And there's so much happening that because there's a lot going on and there's so many portal entries and so many coaches getting shifted around, why push it forward, right? If I was Malachi, I would just say, I'm going to wait until the very last minute. I'm not even going to announce. I'm just going to wait until signing day because he's not he's not an early entrant at this point. So he can just wait as long as he possibly wants. Now, we talked about Malachi going to Colorado for a visit, and I want to transition that into Deion Sanders. So I did a video on Deion Sanders. You guys have watched it because it has 33,000 views, which is fantastic. That was a really successful video for the channel, so thank you for watching it. I am a Deion fan. I am not a Colorado fan, but I am a Deion fan, okay? I put a tweet out the other day basically talking about my desires to see more Deion-style content from Matt Rule. So you guys know who the QB plug is. I've talked about him on the stream before because he and I've had conversations about social media and how important social media is becoming, especially in the coaching world. And if you follow the QB plug, this guy's got 1 million, I think, on TikTok, a couple 100,000 on Instagram. He's mastered social media, right? He goes to all the high schools in Nebraska, and he has a really solid brand. Anyway, you guys know I know a lot about social media, and I understand where the world's going. That's why I'm on YouTube, right? Point is this. Deion has mastered it, and Deion's using it to his advantage. This is his son. This channel right here, I encourage you. So most people who are in the chat right now, we got 400 people online. Most people, all of you are Nebraska fans. Most of you are college football fans. And because of that, college football is like a reality show. It's one massive reality show, right? You get to tap into different series is essentially how I would look at it. You get to look at this team and this team and this team, and there's all these little components. If you enjoy college football like I do, then you're probably watching videos like this. And this is his son who makes vlogs, okay, of Deion's journey, essentially. You've got all these individual clips, 15 minutes, 16 minutes, 5 minutes, 10, whatever. These are him living his life as the head coach at Colorado and Jackson State at this point, and they're documenting it. You're getting to see the behind the scenes of how the coaching industry works. You're getting to see the behind the scenes of this high profile guy's life. You're getting to see some of the stuff with the players, with the games, with the preparation and all that goes into it. On top of that, you're getting a lot of value in, not personal development per se, because it's not that dialed in, but you're getting value-based content, and you're getting this guy's teachings and this guy's words, and it's basically bringing you closer to his life. If you're a 16-year-old kid, well, if you're like me, if you're a 29-year-old just watching it for entertainment, you're getting entertainment out of it. But if you're a 16-year-old kid who's being recruited by them, like if you're Malachi, you're like, wow, I can really envision myself at a program like this, and I can understand what that program's all about. It's not a mystery. What's even more interesting, when you think about the youth and how they've come up, they've been ingrained in these vloggers' lifestyles, right? And now if they get the chance, it's like Deion's a bigger celebrity, and Deion's more of, you want to be in his world so bad because you've been ingrained to be a part of that since you were 10, 12 years old, right? Imagine, and don't even imagine, I'm going to tell you, this is where things are going, not just for college football and NFL or whatever. This is just all industries across the world. social media is driving your marketing. So all of these people who are figureheads, like a Dion, are becoming these strong marketers, and they're using it as free marketing to get people to come to their school. Anyway, as long as we have people like Dion doing this, I'm going to want more of it from other coaches around the country. Lane Kiffin does it a little bit. Jim Harbaugh's done it a little bit. Imagine if Matt Rule, who's a really well-spoken guy, Matt Rule's a great recruiter. He knows how to talk and give great speeches, essentially. He's like a pastor, right? He's a preacher. Imagine if you could get a taste of Matt Rule every single day, the way that Dion's doing it. Imagine if there was a guy following Matt Rule around on his recruiting journey and in the behind the scenes of building the Nebraska football program back up from ground zero. For the fans, it's incredible. But for recruits, it's the next level, right? It gives you this access, and you want to be a part of that. So there's something I admire about that. And yeah, I really enjoy watching these videos. So yeah, again, I'm going to show you the channel just so you can see it if you guys want to check it out. It's called Well Off Media. It's essentially daily vlogs of Deion Sanders. So that's where things are going. I think it's pretty cool. But that's the type of stuff that he's doing to get guys like Malachi, who would have never considered CU ever, to go and check it out at least once, which is pretty fantastic. Well, you said you spoke my mind. Here's a question for chat. Do you think that in year one, Nebraska wins or Colorado wins? Because you have brand new coaches. It's on the road at Colorado. Colorado is down worse than Nebraska talent-wise, but things can flip fast. So chat, A, Colorado will win in 2023, or B, Nebraska will win in 2023? Let me know. Cornhusker Corner says, tell Rule I would do that for free. I'll be his vlogger. Nebraska. Whole chat's on Nebraska. Colorado because the transfers. It's majority Nebraska. Nebraska won't beat themselves. It's a little mixed, but more so Nebraska. All right, guys, thank you for that. I just wanted to get an idea of where you stand or what your deal is, because I honestly have some concerns. We can talk about that at a later date. Kyler, thank you for the $5 super chat. I will say, nice to see Matt uses Twitter, a little unlike Frost, who was never tweeting. Honestly makes my day better to see Rule on Twitter. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm talking about, right? As a fan, we want to engage with these figureheads and with these people who are the faces, right? People loved and adored Scott Frost. They loved him. They wanted pictures with him everywhere. You'd want to talk to him. You'd want his autograph, whatever. So if he posts pictures up, you're interested in that content. Well, now Matt Rule's doing it, and we're all liking it and sharing it. Former players are going and commenting on it. It's more about the marketing, in my opinion, than anything else. I think that's the most important part of it, because it allows people to see you. It allows people to relate to you. It allows people to get to know you and understand you. It can create a new fan base, right? If people are fans of Matt Rule, people will now become fans of Nebraska. It helps drive the ticket sales. It helps build the brand up. It helps people be more engaged with what's going on. Colorado didn't hire Deion Sanders to be the head coach at Colorado just because of the X's and O's. They hired him because of everything else he brought to the table. They hired him because of the money it drove in merch sales. They hired him because of the people that will now come and watch the games because they're interested in the show, right? So if Matt Rule does more of that, I think it would be beneficial for him, beneficial for Nebraska, beneficial for the fans, beneficial for recruiting. I mean, yeah, hopefully we see that more in the future. That's my hope. I don't know if he's that type of coach, but it's a dream, because as a fan who loves the reality show of college football, I want more content. I'm thirsty for it. I'm hungry for it. I just need it at all costs, right? And I want to see it from all teams. So anyway, that's just the fan side of me talking, but giving you guys my take. You know how it is. If Colorado wins, we'll never hear the end of it. We should have hired Prime BS. Yeah, I think you're right. We will hear a lot of BS about that. What do I think of Rule's recruits so far? We could talk about them. Let's talk about who's actually committed right now. So, let me minimize the chat so it's not in the way. So right now, you've got Riley Van Poppel. He was not a Rule recruit, but he looks like he's going to stay in this class. I saw Terrence Knighton was at a visit or on a visit to his house today or yesterday. So it looks like he's going to be in. He's a defensive lineman, 4-star. Barry Jackson, he's going to be in for sure. He's coming on a visit next week. I talked about him, and I think he's a really important piece of this class. He's a speed guy, smaller, but I think he's built like Trey Palmer. Bryce Turner, this one was free because Bryce was a 0-star recruit. He was a track guy. Runs a 4.25, I think, comparable to Deshaun Jackson. So he's got some serious speed. Olympic level speed, like, getting towards it. He wasn't someone that was highly contested, right? I'm not sure if any other schools pursued him in D1 period, let alone Power 5. But hey, you take what you can get at this point in the process. I think a lot of people are getting, judgmental about Rule, and they're like, oh, we're not getting 4 stars, and what's this class ranked right now? Right now, the class is ranked 50th nationally, but you've got to be realistic. Matt Rule's been here for 3 weeks. A lot of guys were already committed to other coaches. Matt Rule's walking into a dumpster fire, and it's going to be really hard to just go and pull 4 stars out of nowhere to come and visit Nebraska and build it up. Scott Frost had a lot of success with that. It was a very different scenario. Scott Frost was coming off his national championship season at UCF. He already had a bunch of guys he was talking to at UCF. Matt Rule was coming from the NFL. He had to do 0 recruiting there, so he didn't have the relationships that he could bring over immediately. I don't want to say this is going to be a bad recruiting class. I think this is going to be kind of a foundational recruiting class, but every single recruiting class after this one will only get better. That's kind of my point. I'm not trying to be negative, but my expectations aren't through the roof. Let's just put it that way. Jaden Doss, he was a Mickey Joseph recruit, I believe. Maverick Noonan's in. Gatola's in. Dylan Rogers is in. Knutson's in. Sledge. So all these guys, this guy's Sincere. I don't know how to say his last name. He's from IMG Academy, so that's a good one they can lock down. And then they just got Kai Wallen, who's a junior college defensive end. So far, the class, it's good. It's at the very least, you can call it serviceable. These are all guys who can play from what it looks like. You're not getting any bums, and you're getting guys who fit into his system, who fit what they want to do, who fit the type of offense. One of the things people have been saying, which I thought was pretty interesting, they've been hating pretty hard on the quarterback situation. So right now, you have Casey Thompson, either had shoulder surgery, is going to have shoulder surgery, according to Sean Callahan, one of those two. Regardless, he'll be out until after spring. Logan Smothers, same thing. I'm not even sure Logan Smothers a fit in the system. Who knows? Anyway, the lone quarterback left over that this staff really likes is Heinrich Harburg. And I guess you have Richard Torres, but it sounds like Harburg's the one they like the most. That's not going to get it done. You have to have guys in there for practice, guys competing, and guys who can win the job in case things go left with Casey or Logan and they're not able to play, right? So in that situation, who do you go out and recruit? Who are the quarterbacks available that you can try and pull from the portal at this point? And I think we can talk about that now. We'll just jump straight into it. So you have Devin Leary, probably going to be too hard for Nebraska to get. He's the #1 quarterback in the portal. He's a star. I mean, I don't know who's recruiting him, but he's Ohio State or Georgia level, Heisman level. Brennan Armstrong. This one, I was going to talk about him in a little bit. Where is that tweet? Brennan Armstrong, right here. So Brennan is going to do visits to Oklahoma State and Wisconsin. His stats at Virginia the last 2 years. Well, go back the last 3 because he's been basically a starter for 3 years. 2,100 yards. 4,500 yards and 2,200 yards this year was on an injury, and they had a whole new offense, new coach. Anyway, he had a rough year this year. But last year, 31 TD to 10 interception, average yards per attempt was 8.9. Anyway, this guy's a stud QB. And if Wisconsin gets him, that's going to be a serious problem because Luke Fickell knows how to thrive with these type of guys. This guy's Desmond Ritter style. And he could really hurt Nebraska. Let's just say it that way. This is a guy who's in the portal, though, that, is a potential. He's not coming to Nebraska, but someone to watch for. DJ Ungalele is probably going to go to UCLA. Spencer Sanders, no idea where he'll end up. I would love to see him at Nebraska, though. Grayson McCall, he's rumored to be taking a visit to Auburn, I think. Who else is in here that would be an option? I haven't heard any of these QBs talked about for Nebraska. Graham Mertz, Kentucky, it looks like. Cade, there you go to Iowa. The first ones that we have heard about, Jeff Sims. It says 100% Nebraska. I'm not even sure he has a committable offer at this point, so I don't know why it's 100% unless they know something on 3, know something that I don't. Jeff Sims did come for a visit last week, and people have complained saying, oh, Jeff Sims had a 50% or 56% completion percentage. Well, yeah, but he was in a spread offense, and he didn't fit in with that offense. It's kind of like with the Adrian Martinez thing last year. He did way too much, and because of that, it forced a lot of turnovers out of him. Whereas you put him in the Kansas State offense, and I think he would have been a lot more successful had he been able to play the entire year. Jeff Sims is a freak athlete, and I think he would thrive in an RPO system. So I like him. The other one that popped in the other day is Malik Hornsby. So Malik was let's see. They don't even have his, oh, here it is. Number 13 QB in his class from the state of Texas. I'm guessing that he was recruited by Matt Rule because Matt Rule was at Baylor at that point. Anyway, that's another quarterback they're looking at. I don't think Nebraska would look at him as just a quarterback. I think he's more of a dual threat guy who you could use in wildcat packages. You could also use as a receiver. Think of a Luke McCaffrey style, right? But Malik had some throwing issues last year. He was not very accurate, but he's really fast, really talented. So you never know. Point is, I don't know where the quarterback deal is going, but there's a lot of guys in the portal right now. More will enter over this next month. We see guys enter every single day. And it's kind of just going to sort itself out. But I'm sure we're going to have at least one quarterback addition from the portal or maybe even junior college. Who knows? Chubba. A lot of questions about Chubba. So people are saying, why not Chubba? I haven't heard very much talk about Chubba. Chubba, chat, how did you feel about Chubba? Just tell me straight up. Full honesty. Were you impressed with Chubba? Or were you underwhelmed? Because if I'm being honest, I was a bit underwhelmed. I really thought Chubba would be able to perform a lot better than he did this year. In the preseason, he was hyped up. They had said, Chubba Purdy is competing with Casey Thompson. What? To me, that means Chubba should be able to go out there and give at least 80% of what Casey was able to give us. The unfortunate truth, Chubba gave us maybe 30% of what Casey gave us. 30, maybe? We were all underwhelmed. I mean, I like him too, Jose. I like him too. And I hope things work out. But I'm not sure what was going on with Chubba last year. It was odd because Chubba was given the most reps, or more reps than Smothers or Harburg or anyone else. And he still wasn't ready, it didn't look like. Now, the circumstances were obviously really rough for all of those quarterbacks. The offensive line situation was a mess, and because of that, I'm not holding much against him. But regardless of that, it's just a little, disheartening. Are we going to go into the offseason with Chubba as the quarterback who's going to lead this offense? After what you watched last year, honestly. Just keep it in mind. I'm not being judgmental. I hope things work out with him. But it's tough. Eagle says, hopefully one of the two I mentioned come over. Yeah, I'm hoping one does. At least Hornsby. That would be really cool because Hornsby's a guy they could utilize in a lot of different roles. Maybe convert him to receiver eventually if he realizes his future isn't a quarterback. Or maybe you get him on the right track and he is a quarterback and we just didn't know about it. Clutch said, did you see the Miranda Coleman tweet? I didn't mean to click on this chat. I accidentally tapped my mouse. I didn't see it. I don't know what that is. Where was I? Husker Nation, James. Thank you for being a member, by the way. All the members in here. See Tater's in here. If you guys are a member, or if you guys aren't a member and you want to be a member, you just click the join button next to the subscribe button. It's $3 a month. It helps to support the channel. You get the corn logo by your name, and it allows me to find your comments easier when I'm searching on my regular videos. So I respond to members' comments before anybody else's comments because there's a lot of them. So that's what the corn is. What are your thoughts about Tony White and Rule retaining Raiola? My quick thoughts on Tony White. I think that was a really good hire. That was I think I said this in my Tony White video. It was the splash hire that Nebraska's been waiting for. He's going to be really expensive. I think Syracuse paid him $700. What was it? They had guessed it was $711,000 a year at Syracuse, and that was like the highest they had ever spent, the most they had ever spent on a coordinator position or an assistant position at Syracuse. Nebraska's probably going to pay him over $1 million, I don't know what that number is going to be. Is it 1.2? They haven't released it yet. But yeah, I'm impressed by the hire. You went and stole a guy who's been successful everywhere he's been. Someone called me the other day and was talking to me about why they weren't too impressed with the Tony White hire. They're like, oh, well, I don't know. Syracuse sucks. And did you not watch Syracuse defense? Did you not look into the back end here? Did you not see how much more improved they were? All the draft picks that he's had in his history. This guy was at San Diego State, had some fantastic DBs. Then he went on to ASU, another place that was kind of down bad before he got there. He made their DB room a lot better. He was going to take over as their DC and then bounced out to Syracuse, where he completely remodeled their D. Now, obviously, a lot of people have complaints. They're all saying, well, the 3-3-5, it was a failure with Brady Hoke at Michigan, and there's other Big Ten schools that have tried to run it, and it just doesn't work here. Okay, they're not just going to run the 3-3-5, and I'm not even sure that'll be their base defense. That's what he's known for, and that's kind of the specialty that we've seen from Tony White. But I don't know where I saw it. Where did I see it? I don't know where I saw it. I saw somewhere that a recruit was told by Matt Rule they're going to run multiple. So that means 3-3-5 will be in the playbook, but they're going to run multiple fronts. And because they can run multiple fronts, we'll see a 4-3. We'll probably see a 4-2-5. We'll see the 3-3-5. And you'll have variety there, and I think it'll be good because we play teams with different styles, right? You have Illinois, who's very run heavy. You have Ohio State, who's very pass heavy. You're going to get USC in here, who's obviously very pass heavy. And who knows what Purdue's new offense is going to look like. Luke Fickell runs the spread. So because there's so much variation, I think it's good to be able to have at least the personnel that can run these different setups or these different formations. And yeah, I'm pretty confident. So I like the Tony White hire. Rule retaining Raiola, I did a whole video on it, a live reaction like last week. My basic thoughts, to keep it simple: Raiola was dealt a shitty hand. He hasn't done anything to say that he isn't the right guy. He didn't do anything to say he was the right guy either, which is concerning. But if both Scott Frost and now Matt Rule believe in him, maybe that says something, right, that we don't know. I think, who was it, Sipple? I think Sipple said this on a radio show. Sipple was saying that he likes it because you want continuity. You want the offensive linemen to have the same coach they've had, because when you change offensive line coaches every single year, you're having to start over with technique, with blocking style, with everything else. So the continuity is very important, I guess. And yeah, I've never played offensive line, so I don't know. But yeah, I'm a fan of the hire if that's what Matt Rule believes is best. Just, I'm deferring to Matt Rule at this point, I think is the best way to say it. Let's see. Caden, thank you for the 5. Thank you for being a member. Can you talk about Harburg? I must have missed something. Mickey and co weren't impressed with him when the situation was slim. Yeah, when there weren't other options. So I don't know. I don't think it was Mickey who wasn't impressed. I guess it was Mark Whipple who wasn't impressed with Harburg and wanted him to move to tight end, which I don't really understand that. Regardless, every coach has a different type of quarterback they're interested in, a style, right? And Whipple really wanted his guy to be Chuba. He liked what Chuba brought to the table, and apparently Harburg didn't have that. Harburg also battled some injury issues, so that hurt him. But I don't know. I don't know what the situation was and why he was looked down on so hard, right? But this new staff apparently likes what they see from him, and the new staff wants to give Harburg a chance. So it sounds like he has second life. We'll see. I'm not sure what that means. I'm not sure if that means he'll be in the running for a top 3. If that means we like what he has to offer more than a Logan Smothers, we'll find out. Eagle, thank you for the $5. Maybe use a dual QP combo. What's a QP combo? Maybe it's going over my head and I'm overthinking. But yeah, Livewire, explain it. $5. Thank you for the chat, though. And James says 3-3-5 or nickel. Maybe do a pull. Well, the 3-3-5 has a nickel, essentially, right? Or whatever you want to call that that safety linebacker hybrid. I'm not sure people have an opinion on the two, right? Because I think they're kind of the same. They're essentially the same. You have a 4-2-5 versus a 3-3-5. The only difference is the down lineman. Oh, is he saying QB? Let me go back to the super chat. Maybe use a dual QB combo. a dual QB combo in terms of use two QBs. I don't like that idea. Who used two QBs? Florida did. Florida was successful. Who'd they have? They had Tim Tebow and Chris Leak. Was that his name? I think that was 2007. So Tim Tebow was a freshman. He wasn't ready to be the full-time starter yet. Chris Leak could throw it. The dual quarterback system, though, just sounds like, ugh. Does that sound attractive to you? Honestly, I mean, the only way I would see a dual QB situation working out is if you had like a 90-10. Like 90% of the time you had the starter, 10% of the time you had the backup. And the only reason you would use the backup is if you were running those specialty plays. It's kind of like what Michigan did last year with Cade McNamara and J.J. McCarthy. They did it a little bit, but was that 90-10? Probably less than 90-10. I think Cade only played, or JJ only played like 3 or 4 plays a game. I think against Nebraska, JJ only played like 3 plays last year. Yeah, Marwan says Michigan last year. There you go. Let's see. Yeah, JJ says 3-3-5 is a variation of a nickel. Nickel is 5 DBs. Yeah, it falls into the same realm. Trevor Sinek. Who is Trevor Sinek? I don't. Why am I behind the 8 ball here? Let me see. I don't know who Trevor Sinek is. I'm assuming he's a recruit, but I don't know, man. Are we talking about the quarterback Sinek? I don't think his name's Trevor, though. Are we talking about Jarrett Sinek? Is that his name? I think it's Jarrett Sinek. If you're talking about Jarrett Sinek and you want my opinion on that, he played well in the spring game. I think he had 2 TDs. Here's Jarrett. So he had 2 TDs in the spring game, and he led Nebraska's final drive against Michigan this year. And outside of that, he hasn't played at all. He's a walk-on. No disrespect to walk-ons. Like, I mean absolutely zero disrespect to walk-ons. But when we're talking about a position that's so important, so critical, like quarterback, if he was good enough to win the job, I mean, you could bring in any quarterback like Casey Thompson, and he'll start to mark his way up the ladder, right? He'll start to climb it and could potentially be a starter or a backup. Is it likely? Probably not, because you can see in a quarterback what their arm talent is from high school, right? When you get running backs, they might get bigger or stronger, and they might be able to use their body and leverage it more to be a better runner, right? But at quarterback, you know what their arm is, and the fact that he wasn't recruited that high out of high school tells you it's going to be really harder for him to climb the depth chart at a place like Nebraska and in a conference like the Big Ten. So more power to him. I hope things work out, but I hope Nebraska goes and gets a big time quarterback. Just honestly, that's, yeah. And no disrespect to any of these walk-ons, because I think the walk-ons are great. I think the walk-on program's great, and I think we're gonna have some starters at walk-on, just like Luke Reimer was this year. Luke Reimer was a walk-on, and he's been a starter for 3 years now, or 2 years, or whatever it's been. Kyler, thank you for the $5. The fact that the Big Ten divisions are no longer gonna be a thing scares me. Scares you because you're afraid to get matched up with more of the Big Ten dominant teams like Penn State, Michigan State, and Ohio State? Is that why it scares you? Because to be honest, we've been getting matched up with those schools every single year without fail. It's almost been rigged against Nebraska, if we're going to be honest. If you look at Iowa's schedule year in, year out for the last 7 years, compare it to Nebraska's schedule for the last 7 years, we've been given the shitty hand. It's just a fact, and its numbers don't lie when you look at the records of the teams that they play versus the records of the teams that Nebraska plays. So take away the divisions, and I actually think it creates more of an equal playing field for the other teams in the West who have somehow avoided the gauntlet that Nebraska has gotten dealt every single year. Now, this year, this past season, 2022, Nebraska had a very favorable crossover. They had Indiana, Rutgers, and Michigan. Michigan, the lone dominant team in the East, but you had the other two who were two. Were they the two worst teams in the Big Ten? Two of, because you had Northwestern as well. But this year was very favorable. Regardless, to your point, it doesn't scare me. It makes me more excited. Like I said, I'm a connoisseur of college football and of this reality TV show. And because of that, I want to see Nebraska play more variety. I want to see them go up against the best teams. If we're not playing against the best teams to win the biggest games and have the biggest moments, then it's not really fun. I take it back to the North Dakota game this year, the Fordham game last year, or 2018 when Nebraska played Bethune-Cookman. Those games weren't fun for me. I'm just going to keep it honest. It was a game you watched and you're like, okay, well, this sucks because there's no benefit here. It's not like I get to watch it and cheer. I'm just like, okay, if they don't run for 400 yards today, then I'm going to be pissed off. And it's going to also give me an indication of where we are. And when you keep games close with Fordham for the first half or with North Dakota for the first half, you're like, what's this mean for the rest of the year? Because this is kind of embarrassing. Anyway, that's my thought on the schedule coming up. I'd prefer to see us play tougher competition, and hopefully it would bring out the best in the team. Just my thought. James says, dual QBs are rare. Drew Jensen and Tom Brady, Michigan, though, back in the day, pulled it off. Yeah, there's not many schools who run it anymore. I can't, honestly, like this year, I can't think of many schools because the dual QB thing before made sense when you had a guy who ran it and you had a guy who passed it. But in the modern era of college football, you have guys like Hendon Hooker who can do both. You have guys like Caleb Williams who does both. JJ McCarthy does both. You don't need a guy, Michael Penix, who does both. The point is, you don't need a dual system. You leave one guy out there, and he does it all. So, yeah, thank you for the 5, James. I appreciate it. You're always here. You're always loyal. Corner says, crazy to me that Frost went the mercenary route last year, but he didn't get any impactful offensive linemen. An encouraging thing about Rule, the biggest names are offensive linemen so far. That is definitely true. Because, sorry guys, I'm getting caught up in chat seeing all this stuff pop up. Because if you look at Nebraska's offensive line of years past, of the 5 years past, we knew the number one issue was the trench, the offense and defense. Matt Rule came here and he said, I have to do something different. Scott Frost knew he had to do something different, but he refused to do something different. I don't know why. I mean, he tried. Scott Frost brought in Kevin Williams Jr. He brought in the offensive lineman from Hunter Anthony from Oklahoma State. Did he bring in any other transfer guys? Well, regardless, those were two who had playing experience. And although they didn't work out, obviously Kevin Williams got hurt about 4 or 5 games into the season. There was some effort. Anyway, the point is Matt Rule has gone and taken a completely different approach, and he's made his number one priority the offensive line. So hopefully it works out. The other thing is Nebraska this year, I think, has a better chance in the portal with offensive linemen because they understand that the game is changing. The Nebraska scheme is changing, and you have different staff in there who give them more of a belief, whereas last season you were coming in and you didn't know what to expect. Scott Frost was on the hot seat. It was kind of the last year deal, you know. They were able to bring in a lot of skill players because you had Mickey Joseph helping that recruiting department, but everything else made it a little bit tougher. So you also had Donovan Raiola in year 1 last year, and when he came in, he didn't bring any recruiting because he came from the NFL. He was an assistant offensive line coach for the Bears, and he had never had to recruit as a college coach because he never had an official offensive line job. He was never an offensive line coach in the Power 5, I don't think. He might have been an assistant at Notre Dame or something, but regardless, yeah, I think things are changing, and we'll see some recruits, which is really positive. Let's see here. So, I wanted to get to the portal ads today. So Kevin Williams Jr. entered. We'll talk about that first, and then we'll go on to Jaden Gould. So Kevin Williams Jr., was a tackle from Northern Colorado last season. He's from Omaha. He decided to come and play his last year at Nebraska this year. Things didn't work out because he got injured. He was okay. He didn't ever have a starting role, I don't think, or maybe he started maybe after Teddy went out or something. But regardless, things didn't work out with him. He's now back in the portal for a grad transfer year. He'll be in like year 6, and he has to seek medical whatever because he has to medical redshirt since he missed most of the season this year. So that's one lineman out. The one positive there is maybe Nebraska has a lineman in the role that we don't know about yet, and we could possibly get them to come in and bolster the O-line and be more of a contributor than Kevin was. That's the hope. Interesting right here, this picture. This is Jaden Gould. He was the #1 commit in last year's class. He was what was he? 4-star corner, top 200 player from New Jersey. He didn't play much this year. He played a little bit on special teams, but not much on defense. I don't think at all on defense, actually. Why is that? Well, there's a corner at Nebraska right now who has not transferred named Malcolm Hartzog. And if you're Jaden Gould, you've got to be looking at the guys in front of you and you're like, I'm all the way in Nebraska. I lost all my coaches. Malcolm Hartzog's the same age as me and he's got the starting job. And it's not like Malcolm did okay last year. He wasn't serviceable. Malcolm showed he was a first string, a starting DB at the Power 5 level in the Big Ten, and he's ready to go for this year. He's a guy who has a spot cemented as much as Quentin Newsom does on the other side, which is very impressive, let me just say. This guy, Jaden, saw that, and Jaden said, you know what? I don't think I'm going to be able to compete here for a starting job right away. And I think that's what happened with Ernest Hausman as well. I think Ernest said, I showed I could do a lot last year. I had a relationship with Frost and Shenander. They're both gone. Do I want to ride the bench at Nebraska, where nothing good has happened in a long time, and be a part of this rebuild, and sit behind Nick Henrich and Luke Reimer? Because those are the two guys in front of him right now. Or do I want to go to Iowa, which is where I'm sure he'll go, where they promise me playing time, right? And where I can be a part of a dominant defense and hopefully be turned into an NFL player. So I totally understand it, totally respect it. Jaden Gould going to Syracuse was only funny because we just poached Syracuse's defensive coordinator. It's closer to home, I guess. Syracuse is probably, 3-4 hours away from Jersey, where he's from. But yeah, a little odd that he chose Syracuse after we stole their DC. But I posted on Instagram and I said something about that being a fair trade. We lose our #1 2021 signee, and they lose their special defensive coordinator. And Jaden Gould liked it. So I thought that was pretty funny. But no hard feelings over here. Guys got to come and guys got to go. It is what it is. And as much as you wish you could keep them all, you can't. That's just the reality of this whole deal. So it is what it is. All right, before we keep going on with some of the other things I've been seeing, I'm going to get back to chat. Marwin says, you think Garrett Nelson enters the transfer portal or declares for the draft? I think it would be more likely. So first off, I don't think he'll be in Nebraska next year. I just have this gut feeling. I don't know why. I think I'm just a pessimist at this point. I also don't feel like Hartzog will be here next year, but that's just because I'm a pessimist. Anyway, Garrett Nelson enters the portal before he goes to the draft, in my opinion. I don't think he's going to go to the draft because I think he's going to go to free agency. He is taking the O'Shawn Mathis route at that point. I don't think a draft pick is in play. If he went to a school that was a little more dominant, that gave him an opportunity to shine and show his skills as, an outside linebacker or something, maybe he would thrive and get up to be a 5th-round pick. Who knows? But yeah, I don't know. I don't have good feelings about Garrett Nelson because I really like Garrett Nelson, so I'm automatically being pessimistic. Tylen says Rule should be going after Grayson McCall with the uncertainty with Casey Thompson. We talked about Grayson a minute ago. The only problem with Grayson is Grayson's one of the top quarterbacks in the portal. Right here, Grayson is the #5 QB in the portal. So look at his NIL value. $392,000. I mean, that's a big name quarterback. That's more money than Devin Leary. That's DJ Ungalele value. Wow. I'm not sure how they gave him that valuation and why he's so much higher than some of these other guys. Cade's at 270. That's crazy. Anyway, the point is, he's going to be a very expensive quarterback for one of these teams, and I would guess he stays in the South since that's where he's from. I would guess he stays in the South since the SEC could really show him, or really give him some chances to show off what he can do. So my guess is SEC. We'll see. I don't know. Let me see here. Going back to the division conversation, JJ says the good with no divisions is with the playoff expanding, we could finish fifth in the Big Ten and still have a shot at the playoffs. If we were still in the West, we wouldn't get a look because of the weak division. That's very true. Because the competition goes up and because we're having this level playing field, I think it really does help Nebraska for the long term. So yeah, that's just another positive about dissolving these divisions. Big Cahunia says, can we get a Johnny Cornelius? So I think, can we get him is an obvious yes, we can. Will we get him is a much, much different question. Let's see here if I can find a Johnny Cornelius. I was going to pull this up. Cornelius. So here is a Johnny. Look at that grade. Played 528 snaps, allowed 1 sack, 91.1 PFF grade. There were linemen at Nebraska who graded out lower than 30 this year. 30. He graded out at 91 for the entire season. That's an instant starter at Nebraska. So he went to Oregon this weekend. Here are his pictures from Oregon. I'm sure you guys love seeing this because I did too. He's all dressed up and decked out. Woo! Fun. Anyway, but here's this. Nebraska, a few days before. Looks smiley. Looks like he had a good time. He says, I had a great time at the University of Nebraska on Friday. Thank you for having me. Let's see what he said about Oregon. We had a blast at Oregon this weekend. Thank you for hosting my family and I. She used 2 exclamation points. Let's see how many he used here. Uh-oh. He only used 1 exclamation point for Nebraska. I had a great time at the University of Nebraska on Friday. That's how that reads. We had a blast at Oregon this weekend. That's how that reads. I don't want to be Debbie Downer. But he had a blast versus he had a great time. Period. I don't know, man. It could be tough. I'm hopeful, but we'll have to see. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Steven says, Connor, Garrett goes nowhere. I got $100 on it. Unless he goes to the NFL, which I doubt. Yeah, he's not going to the NFL right now. I just don't see it. But there's something appealing if you got to be removing yourself from your fandom. Remove yourself from the Nebraska love phase, right? From the inner relationship with Nebraska football. And tell yourself, I'm a player who's been at the same place for 4 seasons and things have not gone my way at all. And now, am I going to sign up for 1 more year of a rebuild, which I was already part of a rebuild when I was a freshman? Do I sign up for the rebuild, or do I go out to somewhere like Baylor, who has a guy like Dave Aranda who could absolutely use me, plug me in right away, potentially turn me into an NFL guy? Way less risk, right? Or Kansas State, way less risk. I respect it. I understand it. These guys are making decisions for their future. If you're Garrett Nelson and you have 1 last chance, it's tough to give that 1 last chance to a staff who hasn't proven it yet. Just being real, man. I don't know. Dreamin' Digital says, did you see Latovsky's YouTube short about loyalty and why he isn't entering the portal? Watch if you haven't. Okay, I'm going to watch that later. I have not seen it, but I am glad to hear he had one. Another portal guy who came in today, which is something that I thought was notable. Let me minimize the chat so you can see it. So this is Darian Chestnut. Wears number 0, so you know he's a baller over at Syracuse. Where was it? Right here. When Tony White was first announced that he was leaving Syracuse, I think that Darian found out over Twitter, so he put the hand facepalm emoji, and then obviously he retweeted Marlo Wax, who's another guy on the team. put frowny faces. And then he put the time will tell, which obviously indicated he would probably enter the portal. And now, today, 1 hour ago, he did enter the portal. And that's a big deal because this is a NFL talent. This was a third-team All-ACC last year. Let's just look at his stats, man. Let's see what his stats have to say. Darian Chestnut. He was honorable mention and third team All-ACC. Says a lot. Okay. As a freshman, he had 11 tackles, 43 tackles, 11 assists. He had 3 interceptions as a freshman, 8 passes defended as a freshman. No wonder he was third team All-ACC. And then this year, started both years, by the way. This year, 40 tackles, and he had an interception, and he had a pass defended, and probably a pick 6. So anyway, that's a good one that we should keep our eyes on. Hopefully, there's a chance that he come back and link up with Tony White. I'm not sure how much of a reality that is, and I'm not going to get my hopes up. You never know. But it would be interesting to see him come to Nebraska. The interesting thing would really be you have Quentin Newsome, who's established. You have Malcolm Hartzog, who's up and coming, but still established. And then you bring in a guy who's the defensive coordinator, one of the defensive coordinator's top players from his previous school. How does that go down? What's that competition look like between Newsome and Hartzog? And does one of them enter the portal? That would be very interesting. Or does this new guy come in, rotate to safety, play back there with Miles Farmer and Marquise Buford? Does he play the nickel? Does one of the other guy rotate to nickel? I don't know. It could be interesting, but this is fantasy. We don't know if this guy's even interested in Nebraska, so who knows. Greg, thank you for the $10 super chat. I just wish we had a new coach with some swag. Dion is killing it already. I talked about Dion in the beginning of this video, so I'm not going to go back and talk much more about it. But if you didn't see the beginning of the video, definitely check that part out after we're done here. I have a lot of opinions about Dion in the future of college football, about social media, and about swag. So I'm totally on your page, Greg. I agree with you 100%. I think there's a lot of value in said swag, and it really helps for recruiting and everything else. Gage says, and thank you for the $10, Greg. It means a lot to me. Gage says, stop it, Greg. We want a real coach. I would argue that Dion is a real coach. I would argue that Dion is a 10-win coach at Colorado in 2 years. I would argue that Dion wins more than 8 next year. I would argue that Dion has a better chance to beat Nebraska at home next year in the first year than Matt Rule has to beat Colorado on the road in that first game. I keep it real. I'm not going to be a diehard Nebraska fan who just lies to you and tells you, oh, no, we'll win that game, and Colorado sucked forever, and oh, Deion Sanders is a gimmick coach. No, that's not reality. They got a real freaking coach in there. They got a real coaching staff. Do you know who their offensive coordinator is? Sean Lewis came over. Let me pull this up. Sean Lewis came over from Kent State, okay? He was at Kent State the last 4 years as their head coach. Let's see here. Their record was, well, here. Kent State record. So Kent State sucked this year. They went 5-7. But they had an offense that could score. Multiple games. 40 points, 63 points. They put up 22 on Georgia, 20 on Washington. Their offensive coordinator is no joke. So just keep in mind, is gonna be a battle. Let's see. Dennis says bling and swagger represent nothing. It's style over substance. But what if you have the substance to back up the bling and the swagger? I think that is where we are having a disconnect, because I don't believe it's just bling and swagger. I think there's substance there, and that's the fear. The fear is that bling and swagger is just the jewelry, right? And the The substance is what makes him a good coach and the reason that he won in his first stint. I don't know. I could be wrong. We'll see. Steve says those kids are so attracted to that junk. Yeah, look at Oregon. Look at Oregon and what they've done recruiting-wise because of a trend they started back in the, the early 2010s with jerseys. Oregon. No, it was 2007? It was when Dennis Dixon was there. This was Dennis Dixon. This was one of my heroes growing up, guys. So Dennis Dixon was at Oregon. Okay, he's 8 years older than me. He was at Oregon from 2005, 2004 to 2007, it looks like. Anyway, Oregon was recruiting guys back then with unique jersey combos. And it worked. It shifted college football. It shifted how teams wore uniforms. It shifted and made this alternate craze, right? Recruiting is the lifeblood of college football, and the bling and swag and all of that all goes into recruiting, right? It's hard to just knock that junk because that junk is what works. Is it something you can argue? I agree. I won't disagree with anyone here who wants to say it's about X's and O's and you've got to develop your players and all the things that we know to be true. But as much as all of that is true, all of the things you can do to market your school, market your brand, market yourself is what can get players there. There's a reason that players want to go and play for Lane Kiffin even though he's at Ole Miss. Right? There's a reason that guys are going and visiting Colorado, even though it's Colorado. All of these things play a part. Just my opinion. Can't limit our mindsets. I think that's the best way to say it. I don't want to limit my mindset. Ethan says, I should do a collab with James Droz. Who is that? I think I've seen that name before. Hold on. James Droz. TikToker who went viral. Okay, that's why I've seen the name. This guy is who you want me to do it with? I've seen this. I don't know what it is. Interesting. Nice. I don't know what his thing is, if he's a comedian or what. But yeah, I'm open to any collab ideas, guys. You know that. All right, I'm back to chat. High Mountain Guy says, and yet the O just represents how many natties they have, even with the Nike money. Boom. They've been to more playoffs than Nebraska has, than USC has, than Texas A&M has, than all of these schools who are more traditional superpowers than Oregon is, right? You don't have to win a natty to be a competitive program and to be dominant to some degree. And to be fair, I would I already gave my right nut for a good season this year and that didn't pan out, so I can't afford to give the left one. But I would maybe give my left pinky for Nebraska to be as consistent as Oregon's been over the last 12 years. I would give a lot for that. One Man Many Things says, please tell me you're exaggerating. Are we talking to me? Because I'd like to know which part you hope I was exaggerating about. Because everything I've said, I've been pretty straightforward so far. No jokes here yet. What are your thoughts about rural recruiting guys that fit his system rather than high-profile guys? So I like the idea of guys who fit the system because he knows what works. So he knows he can afford to go for the 3-star who's fast and long and doesn't need to just get the 5-star who's a freak athlete like a Malachi Coleman, let's say. He knows what works. So I'd prefer actually that he goes for guys who fit rather than high-profile guys. The high-profile guy thing is a little bit underrated or a little bit overrated. I do think it's important to get some of those big names because you'll never be able to compete with the Alabamas, the Ohio States, the Georgias, or any of the schools who can recruit 5-stars across the board because those guys generally go to the NFL. And you find less guys who are 3 and 4 stars who go to the NFL. Now, in general, there are a lot of guys, no matter what the star ranking is, that's not a 5-star, who do make it to the league. but it's a lower percentage, right? If you do the percentage of 3 stars, well, there's just less of them, right? There's less 5 stars than there are 3 stars. So the percentages are obviously higher. But regardless, yeah, I'd prefer that we go for guys who fit. Let's see here. Speaking of collabs, maybe Don Collins. Michelle says, yes, bring Don Collins on. Okay, well, are there 10 people who want to see Don Collins on? If we can get 10 people who say, bring Don Collins on, I'll bring him on as well. I talk to Don all the time. Don's advertised on the show. Don started hitting me up back when I had the channel last season. I've given him a bunch of advice for his channel. So if you guys want to see him, I'd have to have enough people because he's a relatively new channel. So if there were enough people who wanted to see it, I could do a collab with him. No problem. He would really appreciate that and be very happy about that, actually. People are saying Carricker won't come on. Yeah. Steven, if you could get Steven, you said you could get Carricker on, but Carricker won't come on. Carricker said he would come on, but he wasn't interested in coming on, I don't think. So I don't think Carricker is an option right now. I think Carricker is busy. He's got some health things going on, and I don't think that's an option. Tim says, can we get Coach JB back on? I love that guy. Yes, we can get Coach JB back on for sure. I want to get JB on, and I want to get Zach Smith on. Those are 2 that we'll get. Zach Smith and I talked about doing it. He got busy this week, so we couldn't do one. But I'm going to reach it back out to Zach, and we'll do it. I'm curious as to what Nebraska's NIL purse looks like in comparison to the big dog schools. Find it hard to believe Bama has deeper pockets when we have the Oracle of Omaha. I'm not sure the Oracle of Omaha is spending the money at Nebraska. I'm not sure he's committed to NIL the way we wish he would be. So yeah, who knows? We haven't talked about it yet. So I'm going to get away from chat for a minute because I've been in there engaging with you guys a lot. Let me see here. So Ryan Walters, the former defensive coordinator of Illinois as of yesterday, is now the head coach at Purdue. And my initial thoughts on this was that, why? Purdue has been an offensive-minded school for the last 6 years. They've been very successful with their offense. And I'm just surprised you would shift to, to be fair, he's a great defensive coordinator. But why shift when you've had so much offensive success? I mean, the reason I'm saying this is because if you looked at Purdue before Jeff Brom got there, Purdue was not good. Purdue year-by-year record. So Jeff Brom comes in right here, 7-6. He got it up to 9-4 and 8-5 back-to-back, and potentially would have had 2 bowl wins. And he made the Big Ten championship this year. You go before him, Darrell Hazel, garbage. Danny Hope, garbage. Joe Tiller had some years, but that was before Nebraska jumped into the conference. Joe Tiller was there a really long time. Joe Tiller was successful, okay. Because Joe Tiller goes all the way back to 97, 9 wins. Point is this. You found something that works. Why are you jumping from a successful offensive profile to defense? It's going to be an interesting flop, an interesting switch. We'll see. Ryan Walters is a solid coach, though. He's young. I think he's like 41 or something. Let's see. Look at Ryan Walters. We'll look at his journey so far, his coaching career. Ryan Walters, Purdue. So, what a terrible picture to use by Wikipedia. It's so blurry. Okay. He played safety at Colorado from 2004 to 2008. It's interesting because I went to a Nebraska-Colorado game in between that time, so I've seen him play. Okay. GA. So DB's coach at Arizona, DB's coach at North Texas, DB's at Memphis, at Missouri, DC at Mizzou, DC at Illinois, and now the Purdue head coach. If you look back last year at Illinois, their scoring defense, #1 in the country. They only allowed 12.25 points a game. Where'd their total D rank? Or let's look at turnovers. Turnovers, #1 in the country. In 12 games, they had 8 fumble recoveries and they had 22 interceptions. They were averaging almost 2 interceptions a game. I'm not going to lie, that's pretty damn impressive for Illinois. And their total D? Number 2 in the country behind Air Force. 4.26 yards a play. 263 yards per game. Yeah, Ryan Walters seems like a home run for them. If you're Purdue, who else were you going to get? I guess you could have gotten Bill O'Brien. I think when I watched a video about the potential hires for Purdue, some of the fans had wanted Bill O'Brien, and it would have made sense because, if, like I said before, you're coming off this high-profile offensive mind, maybe go get another one who can just pick up where he left off. But yeah, not my business though. I don't know how it works, so I'm not an AD. Bring in whoever the best guy is out there, I guess. So hopefully it works out. Purdue, I'd rather not be great. It just doesn't feel right to have Purdue be a really good team. I'd rather have Nebraska and Wisconsin be really good, traditional powers, but hey, whatever you get. Getting back to chat. Do you think since Rule isn't experienced in NIL, do you think since Rule isn't as experienced in the NIL so far since it started after he went to the NFL, it influenced his coordinator hires? No, I think he went and got two because you have to realize Satterfield came from the NFL, was in South Carolina for 2 years. Not sure how much he had to do in recruiting when he was at South Carolina. I think that was more Shane Beamer. Although he could have recruited some guys, I'm sure. Point is, I don't think either of these coaches were guys he looked at as elite recruiters, and that's why he went out and got them. I think he said, this is the best offensive coordinator I can get right now who I have a tie to and who can build my offense because we've worked together in the past. And this is the best defensive coordinator we can get right now because this guy has the best resume. And although I don't have any connections or ties to him or proven work with him, I think this could be kind of a slam dunk hire and someone under the radar, which I think it was, very under the radar. Buffett doesn't care about football unless it can show him good profit. That's pretty funny. It's probably true. Ryan says our boosters are wide open. We have one of the top NIL programs and purses. Yeah, I'm sure Nebraska's up there. I think it's Texas, probably Georgia, Bama, Auburn, Nebraska. I mean, Nebraska's somewhere in the top 12. So that's my opinion. What do you think Colorado's NIL purse looks like? As of now, I think that they've gotten a lot more donor money over there. When you bring in a name so big and vibrant, you're going to get a lot of interest. You're going to have a lot of guys be attracted to that and want to contribute. Colorado's a big school, which means they've got a lot of money coming back in there, right? A lot of people who've been successful and want to see their sports do well. So I'm sure that they were able to raise a lot of money. That's my opinion. I'm sure Colorado has money to spend on recruits. One recruit they got the other day, Dylan Edwards. This guy, Dylan Edwards, started off being recruited by Nebraska. And I remember him being a potential. 13th ranked running back nationally, the number 2 running back in Kansas. Ended up being recruited by Kansas State hard. And I think he was committed. He went on a visit at least after Nebraska. Maybe he committed to Kansas State. Then he decommitted. I believe he committed to to Notre Dame. And then decommitted from Notre Dame and now ended up at Colorado. So, pretty interesting. Um, All of these chats are funny. Kevin says, I heard Colorado is struggling to pay Prime. Kim has a bunch of question marks. Kim, I don't know what you asked. I got lost in chat. There's a lot going on in here. You guys are funny. You guys are having conversations, and I can't even keep up with everything. I'm seeing stuff about the players wanting to play for a black coach. I'm confused. I'm lost. There's a lot going on. You think we can get Tristan Alvano, the 5-star kicker from Westside? I would say we more likely do get him than don't. It sounds like he's looking for a reason to come to Nebraska. He said in an article or in an interview that he had originally not gotten to talk with the other coaching staff, or not that he didn't get to talk with them, that the other coaching staff didn't pursue him very hard, and because of that, Nebraska was an afterthought, or maybe they weren't an afterthought, but they weren't a school he thought that he was going to end up at. And now it sounds like this staff has made him a top priority, and because of that, I think it's going to be really hard to lose him. If I had to predict, I would predict he commits here, and he is part of the early signing day class, which is 8 days from now. That's my prediction, but who knows? Husker Nation, James, thank you for the $2. Let's do a poll for Don Collins. I've seen so many 50-50s on Don Collins. You guys are funny. Don's still small, so we don't have to do Don yet. We'll see. Really quick before, well, we'll do a poll right now. Guys, put in the chat right now. All I want you to say is yes or no. Yes, do an interview with Don Collins. No, don't do a video with Don Collins. Yes or no. That's it. That's all I want to see in chat. I'm waiting for you. And then we're going to move on to my next thing. Yes or no for Don Collins. Husker Nation, he says, you said 10 people. Yeah, I did say 10 people, but if you have 10 no's and 10 yeses, it doesn't count. I need majority to say yes. 1, 2, 3. So right now it's a tie. Yes, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes. Neutral. Okay, I got enough yeses. I'll probably do Don. I promise you, after Don watches this, he's gonna call me and he's gonna say, are we doing a show? I promise you, he's gonna ask me this tonight. I'm gonna get a call at 11 o'clock tonight, and he's gonna be like, Connor, I saw on your chat. I'm like, yep, what's up, Don? We gotta schedule something. So, okay. William, thank you for the $10 super chat. I appreciate it. I haven't seen any comments from you, otherwise I would respond to them. But if you have any comments, William, I'll find them and talk to you. Cash says, do you think Nebraska can make a bowl game next year? Yes, 100% can make a bowl game. Will they make a bowl game? That's a little bit trickier of a question. It's too early for me to make any predictions because we don't even know who our quarterback is. We haven't seen what this class is looking like. Guys are still transferring out. It's not the right time for me to make that prediction yet, so I'm not going to. Speaking of bowl games, guys, I have a bowl pick'em for Corn Craze subscribers. So all you do is go to ESPN. Actually, just click the link in the description of this video. All you do is go to the Corn Craze bowl picks. The winner, maybe there will be a few winners. I'll send you guys merch. So all you do is you click in, and here are a bunch of people from Corn Crazed, and you make an entry. So you make one entry, and then here you pick your team, and you assign how many points you want to give to that team. And then every time you win, every time you win a game, you get points, and then the person with the highest points at the end, or the few people with the highest points at the end, will get merch. That's my plan. So anyway, you can join that in the description box below. And I also have a $20 private buy-in one right here. So it's $20. There's probably going to be 15 people in that, just my friends. And if you want to join that, you can DM me separately. And it's $20, winner takes all. So yeah, that one will be cool too. But it's Bull Pick'em. It's very simple. You guys have done it before, and it makes sense. And today our sponsor, I have to shout him out, is Bro Throw. I'm not even logged in right now. Hold on. I have to mention the sponsor because the sponsor makes it so I can make this content, just straight up. I could not make this content. I could not afford to do as many videos as we do if I didn't have them. So with that said, shout out to Bro Throw. the #1 peer-to-peer sports betting website out. If you guys want to bet on NFL playoffs, if you want to bet on NBA, if you want to bet on soccer, MMA, anything, BroThrow is the best site to do it. Put it simply, they don't charge a vig. So if you use any of these other websites, FanDuel or any of the sites that I can't use since I'm in California, you can use BroThrow and it pays even money. $50 pays $50. Whereas on my other websites that I used to use, $50 bets would only pay $45 bets. Over time that adds up and you can see that I've earned an additional $732 on my wins from BroThrow than I would have on my my normal books. So that's fantastic. Making bets on BroThrow is super easy. And I'm not just sharing this because it's my sponsor. I'm sharing this because I genuinely love this website. I genuinely love the product. And I just think it's really valuable for people who do bet on sports. It's way better than any of the other sites. And if you're in Nebraska or a state where it's not legal, this site's legal in all 50 states. So it's fantastic. You have all the bowl bets here. So you can go and see the spreads now. I'm going to have a ton of bowl picks. I'm probably going to take almost every single game. So bowl season's coming up on the 16th, Friday. So I'm excited to get it started, and I'll have a bunch of bets in here. But anyway, brothrow.com/GBR is how you get into our BroThrow group, or you can click the link in the description. Super simple. So yeah, anyway, I'm back to chat. I'm back. James says, thank you for the enthusiastic tone. Will you have a live reaction to the first signing day or a live show for people signing? I will definitely have a live show that day, I think. Either a live show or a regular video, and the next day a live show. I'll have something. There's no way I'm not going to be making content on signing day because there's going to be a lot happening. I am going to be out of town from the 17th to the 20th. I'm going to go to Oklahoma to hang out with my sister and my dad for Christmas at my dad's house. And then I'm going to be back here on the 20th at night. So in the morning on the 21st, I will be back covering signing day. So that'll be exciting. Michelle, if you can't sign up for BroThrow, DM me and I'll help you. I don't know what your problems you're having, but DM me. I will help you. Galactus says he did his bowl picks a while back. He's going to be last. He predicted a 9-win season, predicted a bowl game, predicted Urban Meyer. Well, here's the deal. You could predict all of those things with Nebraska, and it's just bad luck on Nebraska's part because everything I predicted after the Nebraska predictions, like the during the season predictions, all of my predictions were almost right. And then if you go to my predictions for other games, all of those predictions were right. So even though we've been wrong about Nebraska, your bull picks might not be wrong. It's just Nebraska who's cursed, and Nebraska doesn't love us, bro. That's all it is. I promise you. Nebraska loves us now, but they didn't love us back then. I don't know what it was. That freaking curse is dirty. It was hurting. It was kicking us in the gut over and over and over. But it doesn't define us. We're better than that. We're better than our predictions of 9 wins this year. Just to let you know, Hartzog is staying in Nebraska. I was on a TikTok live with Emmett and Hartzog, and I asked him if he was staying, and he said yes. Well, that would be fantastic. I hope that's true. I love to hear that Hartzog and Emmett are on TikTok lives with you. That's pretty great. Scott's Tot says, who else do you think comes back after testing the transfer portal waters? I'm not sure any of them come back. Is there anybody who would be... The only one they would want back is Ernest Hausman. Maybe they'd want back Kevin Williams. But outside of those two, I think this staff wants to cut some guys free. They need scholarship spots, right? They're going out and trying to recruit. So if you're going to make sure you have scholarship spots open, that means you got to have some attrition. And natural attrition is probably better than having to force guys out of scholarships and telling them, hey, you're no longer welcome. Kind of like what Dion did, right? So makes it a little less awkward. So I think the only one that would be welcome back is Hausman, but he's an Iowa boy now. I just feel it in my gut. And I think his predictions for Iowa too. So yeah, that's my thought. George says he lives in Syracuse. He's been a Syracuse football fan for over 50 years, so he's seen the good and the bad. He can tell us that Tony White is the real deal. George, thank God. We need somebody to be the real deal because we haven't had many real deals here in a while, and Nebraska fans are hurting. Let me tell you, it has been painful. We have not had a defense in who knows how long. I mean, we had a decent defense last year, but prior to that, it has been cold outside. Let's just put it that way. So yes, he is welcome. We're excited for Tony White. Hartzog was your favorite freshman from last year. I think we all are on that same boat. He had a really good year. From the DB room, you had to be impressed with him in his first year and with Marquise Buford, both guys who really showed up. Really hoping we keep both, and I'm sure we will. William, thank you for the $5. Your support means a ton. Galactus says they definitely need to rein in the portal. Nothing stopping players from jumping teams every year. Makes it hard to coach, though. It does, but if you have some consistency on your team and you're winning, usually you won't lose the guys who are playing. The only time you lose guys is when they're not getting the right playing time, when they feel disrespected, and that's natural attrition. Like Alabama has every year. Like Clemson has every year. You lose some of your backups. Ohio State, for example, they have 3 or 4 guys in the portal right now, but they're just not good enough to play at Ohio State. Nebraska picked one of those guys up a few years ago. What's his name? I can't remember. The corner, the former 5-star. Blanking on his name right now. But you get the point. Jake says, does Yant get signed somewhere else? Because like half the portal players probably won't be there, because there's over 50,000 players in the portal. I think Yant could play in the FCS. For sure. Like, when I say play, I think he could play, like, meaningful downs. I think Yant was successful for where he was recruited, right? He was technically a walk-on at Nebraska. He got some playing time. My understanding is Yant didn't do things the right way all the time, and because of that, it hurt his development. So, maybe a group of 5 running back, maybe a rotator at the group of 5. I don't know. Hopefully it all works out for him, though. I've got no ill will or hard feelings towards anybody who've entered the portal, unless they go to Iowa, Ernest Hausman. So, yeah. William says, heard anything on A.J. Allen? I have heard nothing on A.J. Allen, which I'm surprised by. I thought maybe the reason we hadn't heard anything was because Brian Applewhite doesn't have a job yet, or I assume he doesn't have a job yet, but who knows. And I thought maybe he'd follow Applewhite. But yeah, I know nothing. So I'm going to assume for now A.J. Allen stays. I think he knows the future is bright at Nebraska. And if the 1-2 punch is him with Anthony Grant next year, why leave? You're at Nebraska, who's, a big-time school, and if you do continue to have good years, he'll be a starter as a junior, a rotator next year, and yeah, that's very positive for him. So probably doesn't make sense for him to leave at this point unless he felt like he was going to get drop down the depth chart, which I don't see. That guy's a freaking stud. Georgie says, no news is good news on AJ. That's hilarious, and it's very true. Do you think we will see conferences paying a base rate to try and keep talent in the conference? Does this even make sense? Yeah, it makes sense. Base rate means that we would have kind of a base NIL for all the players in the conference. Like every guy gets $6,000 or something. It kind of reminds me of UBI, which Andrew Yang preached, universal basic income. I don't know that it would work because every conference could offer the same UBI. I think Josh Pate was the one who basically proposed this. Josh Pate said you would only be able to get it, I think, if you were at the school or in the conference for X amount of time. So if you were there in year 1, you'd get $600. Year 2, maybe $2,000. Year 3, you get $6,000. In year 4, you get $9,000. I don't know. That would be like a tier system. I don't know how it would work. It's above my pay grade, right? I make YouTube videos. I don't come up with financial models to keep players in the Big Ten. But at this rate, the way college football is changing and the way it's changed for the last 3-4 years, we now have the playoff coming in 2025, 2024. Things are going so fast and they're so dramatically different than what we grew up with. I'm not saying anything's off the table at this point. Literally, nothing's off the table. It's crazy how much it's changed, how far it's come, I guess is the right way to say it. Some people don't like the tradition being ruined. I personally just enjoy football and I enjoy all of the craziness. So I enjoy what I get. I'm happy about it. And yeah, I understand everyone's position though, where they say, this is BS and I like the old way and bowl games don't matter anymore or whatever. I get it. But yeah. Dreamin' Digital, thank you for the $3 super chat. You said Carricker has 5 kids in sports and he coaches. Busy guy. Yep. I think you're referring to when I said I don't think we can get Carricker on. Yeah, Yeah, Carricker's busy. So we tried with Carricker. Only 40% of the portal guys find a home over the last 3 years. I think it's less than that. Maybe total, I don't know. But yeah, it's most guys don't find a home. And the problem is they won't be welcome back. Like Nebraska's not going to say, "Oh, yeah, things didn't work out for you. Okay, come back to Nebraska 2 months from now." I don't think that's realistic. So, we'll see. Scott's Tot says there should be some kind of incentive for players to stay at the same school where they can pull in a good amount of cash over year 3 and even more in year 4. That's a way to fix this portal mess. I think it fixes it to some degree, but I'm not sure how much it fixes it because a lot of these guys want playing time. They're trying to get to the NFL. You don't get to the NFL by riding the bench. You don't get to the NFL by being Malcolm Hartzog's backup and playing 1 quarter a game. So you can transfer to Toledo and get that playing time. You might not get the money, but at least you have the film now to try and position yourself into something better after you're done playing in college. That's my guess, right? Because I think the portal money it's the big names who get all the money. It's like there's the 1%, just like in life, there's the 1% who are billionaires. That's what it is in college football. There's like 50 guys in college football who are making serious cash. And then the rest of them are just getting paid here and there like they're little influencers. That's my understanding of it. I know Caleb Williams, for example, lives in a penthouse in downtown LA that my friend lives in. My friend's rent is over $10,000 a month, and Caleb Williams lives in the same building. So there's guys like that who are getting crazy amounts, but what about the quarterback at Arizona State? How much was his NIL, right? So I don't know. Georgie says Prime's going to press hard. He'll take a lot of kids from us. We need to win with some of the battles coming. Yeah, the quicker Prime leaves Colorado, the better. Just going to put it that way. He needs to get the hell out because that guy's going to be a problem for Nebraska being in such close recruiting proximity. I agree with that. Joey says the people here that are talking bad about Deion would be flying Coach Prime flags in their yard if he had been hired at Nebraska. It's probably true, man. It's probably true. Caleb, we talked about Ajani earlier. There's no news. He was at Oregon. We have no idea. It's kind of a 50-50 between Oregon and Nebraska. There's no commitment yet, so we've just got to wait and see what happens. If Nebraska gets him, it's a total game changer, though. It'd be unbelievable home run commitment. Am I going to watch Nebraska's spring game on April 22nd? So seeing as this is my job, yes, I will be watching the Nebraska spring game. Andrew, we did talk about Coleman visiting Colorado instead of Michigan. I had a whole spiel about Deion Sanders in Colorado and why they're a problem and why he's a problem in a good way for him, a problem for Nebraska. So that's more in the beginning of this channel. Travis says, what about hooking up with Damon Benning? He just started a small podcast. I don't know Damon Benning. Let's see here. He's on Twitter. I mean, I know who Damon Benning is. I just don't know him. Like, I don't have a relationship, you know? Damon Benning, there's no way for me to contact him. It says he's the color voice for Husker Radio, but I've got no way to DM him. So if someone has a contact for Damon Benning, then maybe we can push it that way, but I cannot get in touch. I have no way, unfortunately. Do you think we can get Ramir Stewart and hopefully get Marshawn Lloyd? I think we get both of them. Those 3-star guys who aren't committed yet, I think the odds are really in Nebraska's favor because they wouldn't be willing to come on visits if they weren't serious about Nebraska. Look at that, 95% chance on Ramir Stewart and Marshawn Lloyd. Oh, Marshawn Lloyd, I forgot. No, okay, so Question a lot of people have had is about this South Carolina running back, Marshawn Lloyd. So he's a former top 5 running back nationally, 43rd best player in the country, borderline 5-star. Did he have any stats? He played a little bit. Sean Lloyd, South Carolina stats. So last year he played a lot. This year he played a lot too. Total of 800 yards over 2 years and 2 touchdowns receiving, and he had 10 touchdowns as a running back. So obviously a guy who could compete right away. But the problem is a lot of people have this thing in their head that's telling them, well, we got Marcus Satterfield, so Marcus Satterfield should have connections to these players. Well, there was this rumor that Marcus Satterfield had not called the plays in the Tennessee game and in whatever that last game was they had. What was it? Clemson. There were rumors that he was a figurehead offensive coordinator towards the end there and that the vibe wasn't good, basically. My guess is that the vibe wasn't good with Shane Beamer. Shane Beamer was the one who got these players there, and Satterfield doesn't have a strong enough connection with any of them or to get them to come to Nebraska. So I'm not even going to expect Nebraska to pursue him. I know that Satterfield was following Bell on Jaheim Bell, the tight end from South Carolina who ended up committing to Florida State. But I'm not sure Nebraska even extended an offer. So who knows? Marshawn Lloyd, I'm going to say no. I have no reason to believe they would pursue him because I don't think that relationship is good enough, I guess we can say. Tim says, any news on the Texas A&M kid that visited? The only news is that he's going to take other visits, but it feels like Nebraska has a chance at him still. He's going to go to Boston College and somewhere else, but I can't remember where. But I think there's a good chance. I was a good coach. See, everyone has mixed opinions on Colorado. It's so interesting. Colorado's going to be a powerhouse starting next year, I feel. I feel the same way. But it's interesting that so many people think that Deion's not a real coach and that he's just going to recruit a bunch of 5-stars and things aren't going to work out. That guy didn't go and just hire his buddies from FCS. He went and got Sean Lewis for offensive coordinator. He's consulted with Willie Taggart, who might have been a part of the staff or was considered part of the staff. I don't even know if he is or not. But the point is, he has a real staff. And when you have real players with a real staff and with good energy and positive culture, that equals one thing. And that one thing is winning. Colorado will be a winner whether you like it or not. Whether I like it or not, it's just unfortunately true. Scott's Tot says you need to get Will Compton on the show. Bussin' with the Boys episode with Bo Pelini and Abdullah was pure gold. That was a really good episode. I would love to get him on. I've reached out to him. No response. What's crazy is we have almost 16,500 subscribers. We have 20 to 30,000 views a video. The live stream numbers are unbelievable. We've had over 400 people on this entire time. And there's still a lot of people who, I don't know, they don't see my messages. They don't see my reach outs. So it's tough. We have the #1 Nebraska football YouTube talk show. And that's, undisputed, right? So, I don't know. Maybe one day they'll see my messages. We're trying, man. I'm trying to get the subs up, get the views up. I'm doing everything in my power because I know how good this channel can be and how much more you guys would enjoy the entertainment I'm trying to provide if I was able to get some of the other creators you watch. So, trying my best. I can promise you that. Chris says, what about Texas A&M this year with all the 5-stars and great coach? They only went 500. Yeah, I think that was a different situation. I don't think they had a great coach. I'm not sure that Jimbo's the best coach or as good of a coach, that superstar coach he was back at Florida State. And I think things got stale. Whatever his goals were, he was trying to run the offense that he ran in 2013, and it doesn't work in 2022. He has more innovative thinkers over there at Colorado than Jimbo does at Texas A&M. Texas A&M is going to have to fire a lot of guys. I think they already did fire their offensive and defensive coordinator. So, yeah, you're right that the 5-stars don't paint the whole picture, but I don't think that Colorado is only 5-star players. I think that they have good coaches. Keep in mind, they don't have any freaking players yet. They got like 3 commits. So we'll see what happens. Callahan had the #1 class in the country and did horrible. That's not true. Let's do 2005 Nebraska recruiting class. Nebraska in 2005 had the #8 recruiting class in the entire country. This was a strong recruiting class. Jeez. They weren't #1, but you weren't wrong about them having a good class. They had Harrison Beck commit in that class, who didn't play, I don't think. Zach Potter, Zach Bowman. I'm trying to see names I remember. I would have been like 11 years old back then, so I don't know. I don't remember all these names. France Hardy, I remember. Remember the name Barry Turner. Steve Octavian, Zach Taylor. I didn't realize. Oh, yeah, Zach Taylor was a JUCO guy. Cody Glenn was a part of that class. This wasn't even the class with... God, look how deep that was. Oh, yeah, it is. Marlon Lucky was in this class. And so was Sue? Wow. #8 class in the country in 2005. That might be the highest rated Nebraska recruiting class ever. 2004, they were number 26. And 2006, they were ranked number 21. 2007, I think, was his last year. Number 19. Big Larry Asante. Serensky Gillian. Quentin Castile. Ooh, he was a beast too. Marcus Mendoza. Man, all these names are just bringing back memories. Eric Hagg. Okay, I got to get back on track, guys. It's very nostalgic for me looking back at the guys I grew up watching when I was in middle school. Do I know who's coming out for a visit this weekend? Let's find out together. So if we go to On 3 and we click here, we can click, let me minimize you again. We click visits. Bang, bang. So next up is, so this was last week. This was December 9th. So this is 4 days ago. This is everybody who came. I did a video where I ranked these, a recruiting video, literally ranking the best of these visitors, in my opinion. So now we can skip these because we've already had them. Thursday, we'll see Prince Will and we'll see LaTravion McCutcheon. Then on Friday, Riley Van Poppel will come. Barry Jackson, those are 2 locks, I believe. Ramir Stewart feels like a lock. Bryce Turner, obviously. Kyron Jones is going to come. He was a commit to NC State, and now Nebraska's trying to flip him, the number 56 running back in this class. Sounds like there's a really good chance Nebraska can get him now that the OC, Tim Beck, is the head coach at Coastal Carolina. Tim Beck, the former offensive coordinator at Nebraska, just got a job promotion, so got hired at Coastal. Anyway, you've got Dwight Boodle, DiCaprio's brother. The dude Sincere, who just committed. Mason Goldman and Joseph, I don't know how to say his last name, Backel. Anyway, he's a JUCO guy. So that is for Friday. And for Saturday, we've got Corey Collier. Let's see what Corey's got going. He is a portal guy from Florida, former number 7 corner in the country. And I think DiCaprio Boodle's brother, Dwight, was recruiting him over Twitter is what I saw. So those are the visitors for this next weekend. That's what's there so far. More can get added. We're only on, it's Tuesday, so there can be more guys added for Wednesday. You never know. Christian says Tyreek Hill's fastest 100-meter time in high school was 10:19. So Bryce Turner ran a 10:25, I think. So he's just behind Tyreek. That's pretty damn fast. That guy Bryce Turner is deadly. We'll see how fast he can play. I'm not sure if he's developed and ready to play receiver or not, but it'll be interesting. James is back. Thank you for the $5 super chat. When Sue was shouted out in Memorial Stadium, the Bull effect was absolutely amazing. I never got to go to an Indomitian Sue game at Memorial Stadium, unfortunately. I would have loved to see it, but I bet. You know, I did get to feel that vibe, though. I went to the Holiday Bowl in 2009 when Nebraska beat Arizona 33-0. And we were sitting next to, it was my dad and I. We were wearing suit. We had these Sue, it says Superman. They were hoodies. They were great. And we were sitting next to his sister, Ingham. I think her name's Ingham Sue. Anyway, we're sitting next to her sister. And the whole stadium, the Holiday Bowl in San Diego, every time, Sue, it was freaking electric. I loved it. Anyway. All right, guys. Well, we've banged through chat. We've talked about pretty much everything there is to talk about this week so far. There'll be more news with more commitments coming out. There'll be more news with transfer portal guys, I'm sure. And I'm looking forward to all of it, honestly. Like, as down bad as Nebraska is right now and as bleak as things look, I think we're going to finish the signing class with enough talent to compete next year for at least 6 wins. I think Nebraska has a lot of talent coming back. I think the running back room is stacked, honestly. When you've got A.J. Allen, Gabe Ervin, and Anthony Grant, those are 3 serious running backs who I think are all capable of succeeding in the Big Ten. When you look at the defense, as of right now, it seems like there's a lot of talent. The hope is that we can find at least 1 guy for nose in the portal and at least 2 guys for the offensive line. So those are all positives that I'm looking forward to. I'm going to answer a couple more chats and I'm going to get out of here. Juan says Dylan Rogers is the best recruit in this class, especially if Hausman leaves. Dylan Rogers is a freaking beast, the linebacker. I ranked him, I think, number 6 or number 7 in my important players to sign. He'll be signing with Nebraska. He's from Texas, but that guy looks ready to play right now, so I'm excited for that. Party says, did Nebraska get finessed with head coach salary and years commitment? Looking around the coaching carousel landscape, I wonder. Yeah, it's been interesting, but if you're going to go for Matt Rule, who was the number 1 guy for multiple schools, it's what you got to pay. It's just, it is what it is. And right now it's like kind of tiered out. So over time, he'll make money on the back end as coaching salaries go up. So right now he gets paid less on the contract. Later down the road, he gets paid more. He'll get paid like $12 million at the end. I think in the beginning he's paid like 6 or 7. So I'm not sure if they got finessed, but it's just the way it goes. Thank you for loving the content. I will keep up the good work. I got you. Anyway, last thing I'm going to say is I've got the merch on the site through this month. So like 17 more days. I've got hoodies. I've got some t-shirts left, but those are almost all gone. The hoodies are almost all gone too. Everything's almost gone, which is fantastic. We've sold a ton of merch. I've got stickers, wristbands, the socks, whatever. I've got everything on the site. 25% off if you use the discount code GBR. Okay. So yeah, 1 more month of merch and then we'll take off for the off season. But thank you guys all for being here. This was a great show. I enjoyed my time hanging out with you guys, and there's no other place I'd rather be than with you guys right here on YouTube on a Tuesday at 7:30 on a Tuesday, like I said. So I'm going to go to the gym, but I'm going to keep you guys posted on Instagram. So make sure you're following on Instagram at Corn Crazed. I put all the Instagram stories up there with my quick thoughts and little updates popping up. I'm on Twitter as well, and sometimes I tweet. I've gotten better at it because I used to be really opposed to Twitter before Elon took over. So, yeah. Josh asked what the 402 stands for. 402 is the area code for Eastern Nebraska, for Lincoln and Omaha. It's like the 305 in Miami or the 714 in Orange County where I'm from, but the 402. So anyway, thank you guys for being here. The hoodies are fantastic quality. Everything's great. I mean, yeah, I get DMs about my hoodies every day and people can't believe how good they are, and people always reorder because they want to order it for their girlfriend or for their kids or for a gift. So all of those things, take that into consideration when you're buying my merch. But yeah, I'm going to get out of here and I'll see you in the next one. Go Big Red.